Welcome to the Honest Health Podcast with your host, Jeffrey Burke. Honest Health brings you the brightest minds in the natural products industry, as well as athletes and entertainers. Jeff will keep you entertained and informed while educating on how to be successful on your healthy journeys. Now, here's your host, Jeffrey Burke.
Hello and welcome back to the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. This is my new platform. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. You're used to listening to me on the radio, but radio has changed dramatically. So here is the new podcast, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. I'm bringing you the best minds in the industry, inside the industry, as well as people outside the industry, entertainers, athletes, and of course, those people that have great messages that I really want to focus on as well. It's all about shining the spotlight on the important people in the world and the important people in my life, because everybody brings something to the table. Everybody. So whether you're in our industry, outside your industry, you may have that last piece of the puzzle of incredible information that will actually change someone's world. You're going to love today. My guest today is Dr. Jennifer Greer, and as you can see from the description in the program, what a career she has had thus far. And I'm stressing thus far, because I know there's amazing more things coming our way that we're going to be able to appreciate and benefit from. Help me welcome my guest, Dr. Jennifer Greer. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, I'm glad to have you here as well. You have an amazing career. I think that, the people that I want to bring on here are the people that have been groundbreaking in the industry. They've changed the course of the industry. They've added so much passion and information, either on the clinical side, on the sales side, on the education side, on the formulation side. And I know you have had your hand in so many of these different things. And, maybe you could just tell people a little bit about your journey. What was that one thing that said, this is the road I'm going down?
Oh my gosh. Well, how do I make this a short story? I'm not great at that, but I like a lot of people who come to the industry or even naturopathic medicine. I came to this through my own health journey. I have a master's degree in higher education. I worked in higher education and college athletics for many years. I also started but never finished 2 PhDs along the way. And through all of that, I had some sort of chronic health challenges. I had migraines as a kid. I had some female hormonal issues and different things along the way. Mm-hmm. And then when I started a PhD program at Arizona State, I saw a naturopathic doctor as my personal physician, and she changed my life. All of those chronic things that had been bothering me for years improved, and I didn't have to deal with those anymore. And the next thing I knew, I was saying, I think I'm going to go to medical school. So I did. And it was great. And then I practiced for several years. I got to do a residency in Portland, Oregon, which was incredible. Practiced in Los Angeles. And after a while, I started thinking what I really loved about being in practice was the education piece. So teaching people about their labs, their health, why I'm recommending the things I'm recommending and what that will do. And I started to wonder, is there a way to do this on a bigger scale where I can reach more people than I can in one-to-one practice? And that's when I began looking at the natural products industry as a place to work. And so long story short, I made that happen, thankfully, and have spent 5.5 years working in this industry now, and it's been incredible.
Love it. There's not a lot of people that make that cross that. Let's not call it a rainbow bridge. Let's just call it a bridge from the traditional medical side to the open my heart, open my mind to there's things that I may not know about that are available side. Mm-hmm. And I give you great blessings for doing that, because not only did you just transition and make it perfect and make it a great fit, you brought a lot to the industry. And I think that your reputation precedes you. And I think that this is going to be, even a continued better fit for the industry, having people like yourself that really still have that in the gut passion. It was funny. I was talking with someone yesterday and I said, I'm getting a little nervous. We don't have a lot of young people coming into the industry now. And I said, like myself, I'm old, and I think to myself all the time, I hope we're going to have more younger people coming in. And do they still make people with as much passion as us? And then I see one. I'm
Hmm.
traveling and I'm in a store and I'm like, oh my God, they're still here. So they're still coming in. Where do you see the future of our industry going? Do you think we're going to get an influx of young people coming in and um, following the trail that some of us have blazed?
I absolutely do. And I say that because I have people who reach out to me on LinkedIn constantly. I'm interested in the industry. How do I make the pivot from practice to industry? How do I make the pivot from academic research to industry? I'm really interested in being a part of dietary supplements, of being a part of healthcare. I'm really interested. How do I make this transition? Constantly, I have people, and I love that. It's such a pleasure to be able to chat with people and support them in their journey and help them find their way, because it is hard to break in. And I do think one of the reasons why we don't have a lot of younger people in the industry right at this moment is because there's a lack of entry level opportunities for people. And so it's hard to get in, especially if you are coming from the world of private practice. You have so much knowledge that is applicable and can be used and shared in the industry, but to find that inroad can be difficult and take some time.
That's a really good point. Do you see the mentality on the medical side changing? Because I'm sure you got peeps and friends and stuff that are still back on the other side of the bridge. Are they looking like they're interested? Are they looking like they want to hold to their druthers and what they studied for? Or are they opening up a little bit?
I think most people are open and interested. I think part of it is just honestly healthcare in the US and some of the difficulties around that. If you've got patients coming in your office every day and they are taking supplements and you don't know anything about those supplements, it's hard to help them, right? And so I think that has started to open up the minds and interest level of a lot of practitioners. And then just in general, I've been really surprised when I post about botanicals, because I love botanicals, and so I like to post about those. How many pharmacists are really interested in learning about botanicals and how that might fit in with people's prescriptions, or even replace in some instances depending on the case. So yes, I think the interest is huge and the hunger is really there.
It's funny out here in Las Vegas, we have a couple grocery stores that have pharmacies, obviously. And some of the pharmacists are so well known in this town because, you can go there and ask them about almost anything supplement wise, and they will rattle it off. They'll make suggestions. Even if they're things they don't carry, they'll tell you where to go get them. And I love that. And I went in one day and I introduced myself to one, and the next day I went to one of the other ones. There's two. And I told them about it, and they're like, "Oh, we listened to your radio show. We listened to it for years," and yada yada. And I just shook their hand and I said, "Thank you. Thank you for doing what you do," because we live in this world right now where everybody has almost the right to do almost anything they want and follow any path they want. But isn't it nice when people have maybe a little cliff note version of each path to make their own decision? And
Absolutely.
and I think that's kind of what we're doing. That's kind of our mission, to teach. You've got the education bug like me, and I like when I do a lecture, as I know you have, and you're talking and you teach, and you look out and you see someone get the aha moment, or
Hmm.
you see them like shaking their head and being in agreement with you. You think to yourself, okay, my message is working, and I think that that's great. And I thank you for that, because we don't have the industry has changed. We don't have a lot of educators like we used to. And, a lot of companies have changed. A lot of companies have been purchased. And I don't know what it is, whether it's the bean counters or whatever, but, they get rid of the most important part. Next to formulation is the educating of your line and your products. And if you don't have that, then the people in the stores that do all the hard lifting and that have created this industry, they don't have anything to work with. They're guessing,
Right.
so I've seen that change.
Yes, me too. And I agree with you. Education is so important and it plays such a deep role. If you don't have a good understanding of what the products are, what they do, then how can you implement them? And I know you've probably seen this too over the years, where people often expect supplements to be the same as pharmaceuticals, and that they expect an immediate reaction. And that's rare, because most of the time we're working with nutritional pathways and those take time. They don't just immediately change overnight. We're not cutting off things or completely changing. We're supplementing to support and help the body to work naturally, right? And that takes some time. And so if people don't really understand why they're taking what they're taking or how long it's going to take, they'll stop buying it. They'll change to something else. I've seen, people's cabinets full of so many supplements, they don't even know why they're taking any of them. So the education piece is huge. first of all for the consumers, but also if you own a store and you're selling these products, the people in your store are going to do a better job of helping your customers if they understand and know as well. And then that goes back to the manufacturer, and then that even goes back to the raw ingredient supplier.
It's very, very true. And impatience is something that our world seem to be built on these days. And I'm obviously we all get impatient. I do as self, and I would love a magic wand. I've always wanted one that I could wave and make everything perfect. But obviously that's not happening. If it was, I would open a magic wand franchise.
Yes.
But obviously it's not. But I see in the younger folks today, I see a little bit more impatience than I think I did in maybe my genre, if I will, my group. And I mean, I get it. I have nothing against it. I just hope that the reality is that we didn't get to where we are overnight, and it takes a while to see a difference. But sometimes the difference, if not always the difference you make with the nutritional side, it seems like those are the long-term changes that you get to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And those effects that you see for years down the road. I do love with the younger generation now, they have such a keen interest in preventative healthcare and helping their lives to be as healthy as possible. Quality of life is important to this generation. And I think that's so incredible because for so many years, we've kind of ignored the quality of life piece and just focused on getting things done, working harder, making more money. And then over time, that affects your health. It affects your overall quality of life. You can't enjoy life as much if you're not healthy or you're stressed out all the time. So I really appreciate that in this younger generation, they're bringing back a focus. And I feel like that is trickling upwards, which is really cool to see.
It is really cool to see. And, I see that the way that the country has moved, and I can say probably since the pandemic, because that's when a lot of home workers happened and people are, working from their home offices and stuff like that. I mean, I've seen it be good because they're not driving, they're saving money on driving and gas and all that. But I think the unhealthy part is they become more inactive, they're more sedentary. It's easier to eat the wrong kind of stuff all day long. I think the mental health part of it is, I think, good and bad. I think there's something to be said about being around people, even though I have many friends that work from home and they're not people anymore. I don't know what has happened to them, but they would rather be at home than be outside and be anywhere. And I love to be home. I love to be around the horses, the dogs, and all that. But I'm on the other side. I would rather be out and traveling and talking and face to face and things like that. But I think I'm in the minority with that now.
Yeah, yes, I think probably so to some extent, but not the traveling piece, right? I think that the traveling bug has grown, and I'm like you, I would rather be traveling and talking to people, but I don't want to be, and I feel like this is where a lot of people are the same way. They don't want to be in a cubicle in a building with no windows and no, so it's great to be around people, but they're not seeing nature. They're not moving around in a space. They're just sort of stuck in that environment. So the mix of working remotely, where you kind of have some flexibility and movement where you are, and then having the travel piece as well, so you can get out, be around people. To me, that's where the magic lies.
So if you had to point your finger at the biggest change we've had in our industry, that's a positive, what would that be?
Oh my goodness, there are so many. And I have kind of two that I think are going to go hand in hand.
Lovely.
So one of these is I am loving the change in the industry towards more clinical trials. So branded ingredients with clinical trials, plus a lot of the finished goods manufacturers are starting to do clinical trials on their finished goods. I love this. I think this is amazing. People are hungry for the science behind it. They want the knowledge behind it. And also it adds credibility to the industry and helps us understand what things do. When we're talking about botanicals, a lot of them have traditional historical uses, but then proving that through science now is incredible. So that's my biggest one. And then the second one is I think we're seeing a increased interest in women's health, which is very important to me personally. And I think that's huge for the industry as well. I mean, women are 80% of the supplement purchasers for themselves and their families. So focusing on women's health is only going to benefit everyone.
I love it. And I agree. And I am number one with you. Exactly the same thing with clinical trials and being able to say, okay, I know you're saying all this and that's great, but let's put it to the paper. And, and I even tell people, my friends that are formulators, I said, look, before you start doing your creating, go to PubMed, do your research, see what has already been done, what has been tried, what has been true. You can build on science, but sometimes we don't have to recreate the wheel. But if you really do have something that's amazing, don't be afraid to do the testing and then be able to show it to people, because that's just better for you in the long run, and it gives us a better sense of transparency.
Yes, absolutely. I do think sometimes people are afraid to do clinical trials because they're afraid they're not going to get the result that they're looking after.
Oh, good point.
But don't be afraid of that, because everything that adds to the base of science and knowledge is incredible. And you might find out something that you didn't know or you didn't expect. I am thinking of one ingredient in particular where they were studying the ingredient in women's health and around supporting women's health during weight loss with kind of, middle-aged women. And they were using DEXA scan to determine body mass. And they weren't even looking at bone density, but what they discovered was the ingredient actually helped to maintain bone density during weight loss, which, as you know, is a common problem. As you lose weight, you're going to lose bone mass. And so that's something they weren't even looking for, and found that was a piece of the puzzle just by doing the research. So I think don't be afraid to do the research, and know that you might find something that's unexpected, and anything you have to add to the knowledge base of science around ingredients and natural products is only going to benefit.
If you had to choose between formulating new products and teaching about the products, which would you do?
Oh my goodness, that's such a hard choice. I mean, how do you pick between that? It's a little bit of both for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I love digging into the research to figuring out which ingredients go well together, and using that traditional botanical knowledge around formulating products as well. But then having that really deep knowledge, I've read all the research articles about this ingredient, so I know it so deeply. And then to go out and educate about it, it just feels easy and natural and fun. And so to me, they go hand in hand. I love them both. It would be hard to pick between the two.
Your passion is absolutely contagious. I love it. And
Thank you.
And it's beautiful to see, because the people that benefit from those of us that have a lot of passion are the people that are searching for answers.
Yes.
Because I think that you can bring answers and do it in a very passionate way. Because I don't think I could teach without being passionate, because
Agreed.
I couldn't just mine a bird. That's like, people say to me all the time, they're like, okay, we're going to do the podcast. Do you want to send me a list of questions? No. They said, don't. And I said, no, we don't script. We just talk.
Yeah.
And all the good stuff comes out. And so I commend your passion. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Thank you. I mean, education is so fun. And long in my history, I was a summer camp counselor in college, and that has teaching elements to it. I briefly taught elementary physical education, so that has teaching elements to it. I've had the college age education where when I was working on PhDs, and you do some teaching there. So it's just like a part of my DNA, I feel like, a little bit. And it's so fun for every age. And as you mentioned earlier, when you see somebody light up with that aha moment, or my other favorite is after you have the opportunity to teach something, the people who come up with questions where they are really processing and going to that deeper level, and they want to understand it deeper and really have a conversation about it, is so fun. I just love that.
I was talking with someone the other day, and we were talking about, I was in a store, and I think I was in Virginia, and I was talking to a lady at the store, and I said, why do you choose this over this? And she said, because they came and taught us this one. And I said, well, what about the other one? She goes, well, I pretty well figured it out. She goes, but if I've been taught and educated and informed on something, it's easier for me to wrap my mind around it, understand the science, and understand their philosophy for why they created this. And it's easier for me to be on that team.
Amazing.
And I thought to myself, that's it. That's why we do what we do.
Absolutely. And then she's going to go on and teach everyone about that product that comes in and asks about it, right? So you've created another teacher in the process.
I love it.
The world can always use more teachers.
Absolutely. If you had to pick one thing, and I know what I would pick, one maybe kind of groundbreaking way of doing things differently in the industry that we now do that we did a different way before? It could be a formulating or a stability or whatever. I'll tell you what mine is. Mine is
Okay.
probiotics. I
Mm.
never, ever, ever in my life thought that I would ever recommend a probiotic that wasn't refrigerated.
Oh,
And I never,
wow.
ever thought that there would ever be a chance of having a shelf stable probiotic.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I would travel, I would take my bottle. It was the last thing I packed. I would get to my hotel. I would rip open my suitcase, put it in ice, put it in a refrigerator. And when I was going home, it was the last thing I put in my suitcase. And then it was the first thing I unpacked when I got home, because I am a huge probiotic person, but that's all we had back
Mm-hmm.
then. And now shelf stable, to me, I think that was a big thing in our industry.
Yes, huge. Okay, I think mine is going to be, man, yours was a good one. It's hard to top that. So I think mine is going to be innovation in delivery formats,
Ooh.
because there are so many different ways to deliver a supplement now. It's not just a tablet or a capsule or a powder, right? There's functional foods, which are incredible. You can have, your soda has prebiotic fiber or probiotics in it. You could have a protein bar that has some adaptogens or mushrooms in it. I think those are really cool. I also love the little freeze dried fast melts, which are it's almost like having candy, but it's not candy. Those are kind of fun. I actually think those are more fun than gummies, because you don't have to put a whole bunch of extra sugar in those, which is kind of nice. Whereas gummies tend to have a lot of sugar. There's also the little strips that melt on your tongue, which are really interesting. And one of my favorites that I saw was a formula. I actually saw this one. This is a product in Italy, so I saw it when I was in Europe. But it's a formula that has the ingredients as a liquid, and then in the top of the lid, there's a powder that's the third ingredient that needs to be mixed in, but you don't want to mix it until right before you take it. So you push the button on the top of the bottle, the powder drops into the liquid, you shake it up, take the lid off, and drink it.
Oh, awesomely cool.
Mm-hmm.
I would take that just for the coolness of the delivery.
Right?
I wouldn't even care what it was. I'd
Cool.
love it.
Yes.
That means that we're thinking,
Yes.
and liposomal, there's
Mm-hmm.
another one. I love the variety, because it's kind of like this philosophy. I've got a lecture that I like to do, and it's about not all of us fitting in the same box.
Mm-hmm.
And the philosophy is, I've got these 5 pictures that are on the wall in back of me, and it's the same box, but one person's got one foot in, one person's got their head in the box, the other one's sitting in the box, the other one is, different sized person. And you can cram people in a box, but it doesn't mean it's a good fit.
Agreed.
When we started, we've been around for a while, there weren't many choices, and now we have a plethora of choices. And I think yours beat mine. Delivery systems. I think I think that's my new number one. I'll put probiotics second.
Well, maybe it's high, because I think those are both really great. So hard to pick there.
So talk about mental health with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is I received 3 emails already this morning
Mm-hmm.
from people that I know that are going through some incredibly rough times now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is because these are people that have it together.
Mm-hmm.
They are way financially secure. They're in great relationships. They're in good health.
Mm-hmm.
They exercise all the time. They travel, all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there's something not going on. And I think that a lot of us never ever thought that the mental health issue or situations could ever affect people that seem like they got it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering what your take would be, because it's kind of fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I love this topic so much. I mean, we live in a complicated world, and we are constantly being bombarded with messages, whether it's from the news, social media, other ways, and that really does affect your health. So when you add that in, we've been a hardworking society forever, and then people transitioned from working outside in nature to working inside in office buildings, and then you add on top of that jobs that become more and more mentally stressful, where you're not having as much physical movement. And then the next piece is you're working all the time, so your community starts to dwindle. You don't have as much of that social outlet. We've lost third spaces in this country, which are those spaces where you naturally gather for community. So I think there are all of these pieces that play into it that can really add up to it being difficult. And like you said, people who look like they have it all together on the outside, but there's something else that's missing in the mix. And part of it also, I think, could be because we do spend a lot of our time on social media, and it is hard to be authentic and vulnerable in public spaces. And if your main outlets for community are in public spaces and you don't have the ability or the comfort level to be truly yourself, that can start to kind of bubble up inside and really create some discomfort. And I think that plays a role into mental health for a lot of people in our current time too.
Wow. Yeah, no, that gives great clarity, and I'm going to make sure that my three friends listen to this podcast, because I think that that'll give them a little bit of clarity as well, because I think sometimes it hits you, it blindsides you, and you go to your doctor, and you maybe have a discussion with your doctor, and obviously the first line of defense with the doctor is not going to be diet. It's not going to be take your theanine, your ashwagandha, take your, things along the line. It's going to be a benzodiazepine, or it's going to be some kind of an antidepressant. And don't get me wrong, I have people that use these medications and they are back to themselves again because nothing ever worked. But I don't think it needs to be the first line of defense.
Yeah, and it's all, I like to think of everything as a tool in the bag, right? Yeah. And when we're talking about our health, the more tools that we have in the bag, the better it's going to be. So if you need to pull out that tool that's a prescription medication, then you should do that, right? Yep. That's what your health needs. Along in your bag, I hope that you also have physical activity, time spent in nature, maybe some sort of spiritual connection, whatever that means for you, community, trying to get healthy food in and not just restaurant food or fast food all the time. Sort of all of those pieces, some hobbies that you love. I think we've kind of seen hobbies die out for people too. And, I think that's a big one.
Wow. There's another one I never thought of. I love having you here. You're reawakening parts of my brain that I closed the door on for a while. Thank you. That's a really good point. I don't think that and if you do have a hobby, you don't take your pride in it like you used to.
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of weird, but I think, with a lot of younger kids, I think that the pandemic was an issue. I think that a lot of kids working from home, not having the camaraderie and the negative side of social media. And of course, bullying and things like that. That's not helpful. And maybe people just don't know how to resonate around it. I tell people all the time, I say, don't try to fix your friends that are going through a rough time.
Yeah.
Just be present.
Absolutely.
Just be there. You have ears and a shoulder for them to use and lean on. And you would want them to be there for you. So be there for them. But, don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Just listen. Because sometimes reaching out to somebody and sending a text to someone that you may think is just nothing on your side could be life-changing for them at the very time that they need it the most. So I'm a big believer in reaching out to people in your world, especially if you haven't heard from somebody in a while.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I think it's great timing that you bring that up. I've actually in the past couple of weeks had a conversation with several people about the concept of listening, and when other people are going through a hard time or they have something that they're trying to figure out for themselves, most of the time they don't actually want your advice. They want you to listen and hold space for them to figure it out for themselves. And that often means talking it out loud to somebody who can maybe interject some questions or reflection, that active listening piece that helps them get to the answer that they're looking for themselves. I think that's what most people are looking for really when they're coming for advice, is just that space of listening and holding space.
Thank you. That's heartfelt. I appreciate that. Something that I want to ask you, because of your years in the industry, I'm going to create a scenario for you. So you have people sitting in the audience, and their big question is, we go into health food stores, and obviously we have wonderful people to talk to in the brick and mortar stores, and the people I love the most that built the industry. And I stress it a lot because they need spotlight on them too. But the question comes up in the entire group, and the group is, I'm going into the store tomorrow and I want to pick 5 things that will head me in the right direction, maybe toward better health, maybe fix and, we used to call it Bondo in our old cars that would fix the cracks and the rust spots and all that. If we could maybe fill some cracks and crevices that would maybe make me feel a little bit more noticeably better, what would be your first 5 things?
Oh, I I love this question. Okay, so I have three right off the bat that are pretty dietary related, and so I'm going to go with those. The first one is fiber. So whether it is getting more fiber in through fruits and vegetables or adding a fiber supplement, we are woefully fiber deficient in our diet in this country. So get some fiber in your life, but do it slowly, because if you're not eating the recommended amount of fiber currently and you just jump by a huge amount of fiber per day, you are going to have some GI side effects of that. So get some fiber, but go slow with it. So that's one. My next one is a multivitamin, because multivitamins are what we like to call dietary insurance. No matter how good we are at sticking close to a healthy diet, we are all busy and we are all living busy lives on the go. And we also live in a time where modern farming practices and the way that we grow food and pick food early before it's fully ripe, it changes the nutrient composition of the food. It just does. So having that multivitamin is good dietary insurance. There also have been several studies in the last few years that showed that one of the things that correlated most closely with aging and health, with aging, whether it's brain health or other pieces of health, was a daily multivitamin. So I think a multivitamin is a good one. The third one in this category is omega-3 fatty acids. So many people do not eat fatty fish or seafood. Their diets are primarily higher in omega-6 fatty acids, and omega-3 are our more anti-inflammatory ones. They help to balance inflammation in the body. They're supporting brain health. All of our cells in our body need them. So those are kind of my top three. Like if you're going in and you say, I want to optimize my health, where do I start? I'm not doing anything currently. Fiber, multivitamin, omega-3 fatty acids. That's my starting point. I think it gets a little trickier after that, right? Because we start getting into the individualized medicine and goals of what people are really looking for. So this gets a little harder, but I'm going to say one of my next favorites that I think most people can benefit from is a nice, calming, relaxing tea. So like a chamomile or chamomile tulsi blend is really nice. There are lots of other herbs that people like, passion flower, lavender, those sorts of things. But I think those are really nice, and they have other health benefits as well. So if you're just drinking a cup of tea in the evening after dinner, that's calming, soothing, can help you wind down for the day. Most of us are living a stressful life, so that's a good one to consider. Plus, it fills my love of botanicals, so we get a little of that in there too.
Method to your madness.
Method to my madness, exactly. And then number five is something to support muscle health, especially in people who are aging, because as you know, after we get past a certain age, it is more difficult for us to maintain or even add muscle mass on our body. So something that helps to support that. For some people, that's going to be a protein supplement. For some people, that's going to be like branched chain amino acids. For some people, it's going to be creatine, which is all the rage right now. And some people prefer collagen. So something in that category, whatever feels like the best fit for you personally, I think that's a good one too.
I love it. And if you wanted to, do you think even the combination of all four of those together could be beneficial if you chose to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially for people who are physically active and they really want to supplement that muscle maintenance and activity, or older individuals who are starting to get into that time where they're really struggling to maintain their muscle mass. Yeah, you could definitely put all four of those together.
You know, I see people living a lot longer, which I love, and a lot of them have become a little bit more health aware. I'd rather call it, because they're opening their ears and actually listening. And some of them are the ones that I talked to 20, 30, 40 years ago, and they were like, nah. And now they've come over because, the world started falling apart. But quantity of life and quality of life don't always go hand in hand.
Right.
And it takes some work. And if you want to put in the work and the time, I think the benefits are quite noticeable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I come from a family. So my grandparents were subsistence farmers. So they just farmed to live. My mom is retired now, but was a registered nurse. And my dad is retired now, but was a minister. So that quality and quantity of life is something that has always been sort of ingrained in me, and something that I grew up around very specifically. So completely agree with you there.
So leave us today. And first of all, Thank you so much. This is an absolute pleasure for me. I love having you here, and it just it melts my heart when I get to talk with people that are in this for the right reason, and you couldn't get them out of it if you wanted to because their passion is so deep. They're like, you have to take us away kicking and screaming. But first of all, thank you for being here. My second question is, will you come back and see me again?
Absolutely.
And my third is, leave everybody with a thought of the day on anything.
Okay, a thought of the day on anything. I think it would be this. And let me say first, so honored to be here. So thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun, and I love this. Would be honored to come back. My thought of the day is this. If you haven't been out in nature in some time, find some time today to get outside in nature. And maybe that means your backyard. Maybe that's a park down the street. Maybe you're going to go hiking in the national forest near you. Maybe you've got a lake or an ocean or a river nearby, and you can just get near moving water and hear those sounds. Whatever it is, my thought for you today is spend some time in nature, take some time to breathe in the fresh air, and just let that permeate your body and your senses and relax you in all the delightful ways that nature can.
Oh, I'm so going to use that. That's just like so wonderful. Thank you for that. That's wonderful. I hope you guys loved this today as much as I did. I've been speaking with Dr. Jennifer Greer, and we've been talking about, well, a little bit of everything. We covered the gamut, and it's been fantastic. Remember, this is the Honest Health Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Burke. I'm so glad you're here. Remember, if you like what you're hearing, go to my YouTube page, click the subscribe button, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody. Go click it so we can grow this and get more of it out there and make this more visible, because we're talking about the things that have to do with good health and well-being from the inside and the outside of our bodies, as well as information coming from inside and outside the natural products industry. So I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did today. Dr. Greer, my pleasure for having you here. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely my pleasure.
You be well.
Thank you. You too.
God bless everybody. Take care of yourself. Do something good. Like she said, get out in nature. Do something good just for you today. And remember, make it mean something. Always be curious and change your own world one day at a time. God bless.
Stay tuned for more information from the Honest Health Podcast with Jeffrey Burke. And make sure to check back often for interviews and conversations from the guests we all want to hear from. I'm John the Announcer. Thanks for listening.